Welcome, race fans, to episode 17 of Translated's adventure around the world in the Ocean Globe race. My name's Paul Cayard. I'm your host here in La Jolla, California this week, which is where I live. Just got back from Auckland on Monday, seeing the team off. It was great to spend 4 or 5 days with them and feel the energy and the atmosphere. They're fully prepared, and I expect they'll do well again on this epic leg 3, which, as I like to say, goes around the biggest corner on the planet, Cape Horn. So they're 4 or 5 days into it now, past the Chatham Islands, which is the last point of land before Cape Horn. They're in the lead again, their usual position, which is very encouraging. Long way to go yet, of course. But we'll see how they got to where they are, which is a position I really like. And then we'll take a look at the router so we can see the weather that they can expect in the week coming up.
I want to start the tracker with giving you an overview of leg 3 once again, so that when we talk about the various segments, you can kind of get a perspective on where they are on the leg. So they started in Auckland, New Zealand here on Sunday the 14th, and currently they're only about 700 miles away from Auckland. This is now Thursday the 19th for me. There are 3 ice waypoints on the leg, the first of which they will be coming up on in about in about 4 or 5 days. And they will go around Cape Horn, and this kind of shows them going around the Falkland Islands, which are here. My guess is they'll cut inside that because it's a shorter distance to Punta del Este, Uruguay, where the finish will be. I expect this leg, which is 6,600 miles, to take about 30 days. So I think we can expect them in Punta del Este right around February 14th. Here we have the position of the fleet on the 15th of January, just about 30 hours into the race. They've cleared East Cape. They're all very bunched up, of course. Spirit of Helsinki, I believe, was Pendwick was in front. Maiden. They were all very bunched up here, obviously constrained by the land. And with the northerly winds, they headed straight on the Great Circle route, the shortest distance. That's totally to be expected. But as they went along, the wind began to come from the east, and that set up some interesting choices. And right here, we see Translated and Pendwick being the first ones to tack onto port tack and head south. It's always good to invest in the south, and I was happy to see Translated be aggressive and proactive and be amongst the first to head south. Here we see Spirit of Helsinki heading still on the course. Maybe the shift didn't hit them yet, but now they're tacking. That northerly position for these boats here is going to come back to haunt them. So here they were sailing as close to the course as they could, because again the wind was coming directly from where they were trying to go. But as they went forward, the wind shifted back to the northwest and lifted, and you see the whole fleet's course change back towards the mark where they're trying to go. Interesting right here, 2 boats are sailing a lower course to the right, a course to the right of the pack. The pack is going towards the ice waypoint, the first ice waypoint here at 50 south, 160 west. And these 2 boats are probably sailing, put the spinnaker up in this northwesterly wind, and are sailing and investing in the south. They, in fact, will pass to the south of the Chatham Islands, which is significantly to the south of the course. We can see the sort of the rumline course up here. But they made good gains in doing that. And Spirit of Helsinki, which tended too far to the north, began to lose. And they will continue to lose. I'm really happy to see Translated here start coming down to try to get in front of Triana and Neptune, because I think the south is going to pay. Like right here, Translated actually jibed in the probably northwesterly winds, and is really trying to get down in front and cut off Neptune and Triana. Meanwhile, Spirit of Helsinki is languishing up here and will continue to do so. So that brings us up to today, the current situation, and you can see why Spirit of Helsinki is languishing. There's a high pressure bubble up here. They're getting way too close to it. So is Pendwick, and they're going to pay big for that. Meanwhile, Translated was smart. They've invested in the south, and getting in front of these two boats here will set them up well for the next week. Here we're running the router on January 19th. The starting point is Translated's position. As we saw from the tracker, Translated's done a really nice job to this point. I like the fact that they're heading south and getting in front of Triana and Neptune, which I think have done the best job in the fleet so far by getting south of the Chatham Islands. And obviously Spirit of Helsinki has gone too far north. So I think Translated's orientation's very good. Again, that's the starting point for my router, and the end point for my router is the first ice waypoint over here about 1,600 miles away. So moving forward, getting an idea of the weather they can expect. Right now they have northwesterlies, so they're probably running down with the spinnaker. It's not too windy. It's 15, 16 knots of wind. The two routes that are depicted, the green and the black. The black is the European model. The green is the American model. It's known as the GFS. So the router suggests that the European model is slightly better. Here we are on Saturday the 20th. Still heading south, picking up a little more wind. This is actually a high pressure bubble up here, and these winds are compressed between the next low and this high, and they're creating strong northwesterlies here. Good news about northwesterlies is they're not too cold. The winds move a little bit more west. Here they'll be running downwind, probably with the jib pulled out. It's blowing 30 here. They'll be making good miles. And here on the 21st, it might get a little cold because the wind moves into the southwest. Another interesting point here you see is that they are just south of the Great Circle route to this ice waypoint. So better winds down here, definitely taking the shortest distance possible. At least the router is suggesting that. Here they're coming up to a small ridge of high pressure. I think it's going to dissipate here a little bit. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it's just going to go over the top of them. Now this is not super pleasant here because the high is going to go over the top of them. Excuse me, it's a low pressure trough. They're going to get southeasterly winds, which means going upwind in the Southern Ocean. That's not a nice thing, and it actually shows them tacking here. Now this is all 5-6 days out, so could be a little suspect in terms of accuracy if this will actually pan out. But up until this point, let's say for the next 4 or 5 days, they're going to have nice winds in the westerly quadrant, pushing them along well, and this until they get to this point, which looks like a little high pressure bubble that has drifted down onto the race course and may wreak a little havoc on the fleet, just like it did on the leg before, you might remember, under Australia. So that's the weather they can expect for the week coming up.
So that's a wrap on episode 17. The team's in a good position, as you can see. I love the South. I always say that, and they're lined up well for that. The winds look reasonable, at least for the next 4 or 5 days. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too cold. And then we have, of course, that high pressure bubble that is lurking down there by the first ice waypoint. So we'll be able to report on that next week. But until then, let's remember, we all need to believe in humans.